the individuals that were doing the training, the information that we gleaned from it, the real life and real world experience in taking the course, and the real knowledge that you take away from it in terms of being able to assist individuals in emergency or casualty situations involving a shooting, involving an automobile accident, involving other traumatic and life-endangering situations. Cannot say enough about it. It's TECC. It is a course that had its birth from the United States military. The military learned so much in the initial Operation Iraqi Freedom, or Enduring Freedom, in the original Iraq conflict in the 1990s and on into the 2000s, the sandy areas over there in the Middle East, that knowledge about field training and how to assist in saving people's lives in a field setting has now transferred itself over to a civilian setting in the form of, it was TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care in the military, and now it's called Tactical Emergency Casualty Care in the civilian side of things, and it is absolutely incredible. I would encourage you, there's only been 2 open enrollment periods for our area over the last year, I think. And as soon as Brink tells me I can, I'll tell you about another open enrollment the next time that it's available, because I encourage everybody to do it. We focus so much. I'll say more about it in the 2 o'clock hour. We focus so much. If you are a Second Amendment supporter, if you believe in the right to keep and bear arms as a defense against a tyrannical government or as a defense against someone trying to do you or your family harm, and in this case, that's what I'm talking about, we train a lot in that arena, in that space. You know, we go to places like where this event was held at the Glock store, which I'd never been to the Glock store either. And man, oh man, I need to listen to Brian and Dan more when they tell you to go out to the Glock store, because it is absolutely a fabulous facility and a good group of people. So we go out to the Glock store, or we go out to our training range, or we go out to whatever it might be, a buddy's place out in the country, and set up targets and shoot, as a way to make sure that we don't lose that perishable skill. We discuss a lot what we would do in the event that somebody tried to shoot up a mall or shoot up a place of business or a school or a church, and we happen to be there. We don't talk so much about what happens next. So someone comes in, and this, by the way, isn't applicable only to shooting situations, but it's the easiest way to describe it. Someone comes in to an event space, and they shoot up the event space, and someone has trained and done the things necessary to neutralize the threat. And we focus a lot on that, on firearm ownership and making sure that you're proficient and you get the training in, you get the range time in. Well, what do you do then? Do you wait on the ambulance to come? Do you wait on the EMTs to get there? Do you know what to do? Do you know what to do if a buddy's been shot in the leg? I mean, God forbid you ever have to experience this. Put it in a different way. If you happen upon an accident and you call 911 and you tell 911, my goodness, there's been a 4-car accident on I-24 near Murfreesboro, and you need to get here quickly because this guy's bleeding. Okay, what about that guy? Do you know what to do to help him? I didn't. I know you got to stop the bleeding. How do you stop, though? You got to put a tourniquet on it. Use your belt. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Belts and shoelaces don't work. Got to have an actual tourniquet. Some of this I learned in our training course that Brink conducted with Defense Systems at Cumulus Nashville, and I wanted to learn more. And Friday and Saturday were absolutely incredible. And I just want to encourage you to think on it and make sure that you take advantage of the next opportunity that comes around, because it is well worth the amount of money that it will cost you to get this invaluable knowledge that you can carry with you for the rest of your life, in terms of being able to be there to help save individuals that might need it, whether it's a bleeding situation, a respiration situation, airways, et cetera, or any number of other things. And, yes, it's true. I put it up on my Facebook page that it is a fact that most police departments do not get this type of training. The Metro Nashville Police Department does. I would expect that major metropolitan police departments around the United States of America do, but smaller departments do not. But they have one of the reasons Brink does not open the class up to civilians such as myself and you, many of you, often is because his classes fill up so regularly with police departments who want this level of training, and kudos to them. Whatever department might be within the sound of my voice, you need to get some of this training as well to help the police, because police are there to stop the bad guys. Don't get me wrong. They have a primary job to do, but the job of saving lives becomes immediate once the bad guys have gotten taken down. So we'll talk more about that in the 2 o'clock hour. I was so excited about it, and thank you for indulging me. A day off. Pamela Furr, it's my understanding, did an excellent job as usual, and I appreciate her being here. I'm not here on Friday. Now, that's a pleasure day. It's my first pleasure day of the year. I will be out and about in parts unknown in the state of Tennessee. Maybe more on that later on in the week. Man, there's so much to talk about, isn't there? I could easily start with, I could start with Andy Ogles, but I'm not. We'll get there. I could start with Anthony Fauci. There's a theme to the show today. I just realized this. Normally, and for those of you watching on Super Talk TV, and I hope you are, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, I'm in a good mood mainly because of this lady. Look, you see that? Can you see that on the tube? I'm not looking. Can you see that? That's right. That's my girl. There's my girl, and then no offense to my girl, but, that Dolly is, Dolly's Dolly. Don't shake your head at me. What? I'm just digging a hole here. Just thank you very much for letting me. But you know what I'm saying. But if you're watching on the Talk TV, I know I'm old school. I make the notes. I write them out, and it helps me kind of galvanize in my mind what we're doing here. And I just looked down, and I realized we have Andy Ogles to deal with locally in the 5th Congressional District. There's an update to the story regarding an embellishment of his credentials or resume in his past. And I'll deal with it and move on. I'm not that interested in wallowing in it. It is what it is. I know that supporters of Andy Ogles will continue to defend him, even when it seems that some of what he has said is indefensible in terms of being honest with the people that he represents and beyond. That is my upbringing. And if you think it's a character flaw that I have a problem with somebody lying to me, I don't think it's my character that's flawed. Once again, if you think it's a character flaw for me to concern myself with someone who has lied, then all I can say to you is that I disagree with you. I don't think that's a character flaw at all. It's one of the first things my grandpa told me that I remembered, an adult conversation. Don't trust liars or thieves, because if they'll lie to you once, they'll lie to you again. We've all done it. None of us are, there was only one perfect one that walked the earth, and they put him on a cross, right? So, I'm not being holier than thou here, but I promise you I will call it like I see it. There's a Titans stadium deal that's become closer to conclusion. We're going to discuss that. Speaking of state and local matters, we will have a state senator on with us at 1:05 today to talk about a medical marijuana piece that she has introduced in the General Assembly. We'll discuss that. I am in favor of medical marijuana, just to tell you that up front, in terms of recognizing its efficacy on specific maladies. And I think, sadly, the recreational use of marijuana has hurt the furtherance of the use of medical marijuana generally as a treatment, because so many people are loath to support it because they think it's all about smoking dope to get high, when it's not. Not when you're talking about epileptic seizures and cancer treatments and glaucoma and some of the other things that medical marijuana can be used for. We will talk with Senator Bowling coming up at 1:05 today. There's the NTSB refuting the lie. It's like lying is a theme on the show today. I guess that's where I was going. You have Joe Biden lying his took us off. What did Mandis say this morning? I will never not find the use of the word arse as anything but just hilarious. I think I used a double negative. Proof positive, I think that arse is a pretty funny word. Man, Biden is sitting there with David Muir Friday night, I guess it was, in a lengthy sit-down interview when he got back from Poland. He was all excited and just lying that Joe Biden arse off. Anthony Fauci lied to the American people. We already knew that, but now it's been confirmed. We'll discuss that today. The NTSB refutes the liberal nonsense lie that it's all Donald Trump's fault about East Palestine, Ohio. Is Joe Biden back from his long weekend yet that he spent in Delaware? Left on Friday after giving the interview to David Muir. Mission accomplished, lying his butt off about a variety of different things. So there seems to be a little bit of a theme. Lying liars and the lies that they tell and the liars who tell them. I think I want to start with COVID. Is it you liberals out there? You, not even liberals. Those of you, well, let me back up from there, as a matter of fact. Most of us were as confused as could be in February of 2020, late February of 2020, and March of 2020, when COVID began exploding around the globe. Reasonable people, I find it easy, or it would be convenient for some to suggest that they knew all along, right? They knew all along. I don't know that any of us knew all along. I certainly didn't. In terms of how effective some of the remedies would or would not be, the path of masking and, 2 weeks to stop the spread and all of that sort of stuff. Most of us were willing to listen to people that we trusted or that we wanted to trust. I'll be honest with you. I had no idea. How many people, by a show of hands? I had no idea who Anthony Fauci was before March of 2020. No clue. No clue. Could not have picked him out of a lineup. If you lined up 10 people and told me one of these people is the head of the National Institutes of Health. Now, understand, when he rose to prominence in the 1980s during the AIDS pandemic, I was a little young to be following the news. So that is a meager defense of mine, but at the same time, I think most of us are right there, right? I have no idea who Anthony Fauci was. And I did not necessarily, outside of my general distrust in government, I had no idea to believe that he was lying to me. And so in early of 2020, late February, early March, and then on into March, we were told, whoa, this is a big deal. Came out of this bat meat market. Oh, it's a bat meat thing. Don't worry about anything else. It's a bat meat market, bat meat market. Over and over again, we had that shoved down our throats. And when Trump started veering, as he is wont to do, toward the truth, the media and the Faucis of the world beat him down for it. When he started calling it the China virus, because it originated in China. Now, initially, the media called it the Wuhan virus because it originated in Wuhan. But then that got a little too close to the truth of the matter, and so we had to veer off of that and start calling it COVID-19, and we called it coronavirus for a while, but obviously that was stupid because there's plenty of different types of coronavirus out there, and so eventually they settled on COVID-19 because COVID-19 doesn't really mean anything to anyone, and it certainly doesn't lead us to the understanding of where it came from. So we were told emphatically, and I'm not going to forget this, and nor should you. We were told emphatically in early of 2020 that this was a naturally occurring phenomenon by all of their estimates. They never would say 100%, obviously. But, everything that we see leads us to believe that this is a naturally occurring phenomenon, and you don't have anything to worry about outside of protecting yourself and shutting down, and now shut down your business, and now keep your business shut down for the next 6 months, but don't worry about it. Oh, we understand it's just your livelihood, and we're destroying something that took you 30 years of your career, 20 years of your career to build, but whatever. Just shut it down. You'll get some payments from the government. PPPs, baby. Remember all of that? Remember how we scratched our head and we thought, this feels weird? And then somewhere along the way, in April or May, information leaked out about this laboratory. Our government officials, the people that we look to trust in these times, the CDC or the NIH, I don't blame Trump because Trump is trusting them too. They didn't even tell us that there was a lab. No, they didn't. They wouldn't even tell us that there was a virology lab on site. We had to find that through third parties. And then we started asking those questions. Hey, wait a minute, guys. There's a laboratory right there next to the old bat meat market. What are they doing in there? It's called the Wuhan virology. So instead of believing that the lab virus came from a lab, we're supposed to believe that it just popped up in some bat meat across the street. And you're sitting here telling me that one suggestion, the suggestion that it accidentally leaked out of a lab designed to perform gain-of-function research on this exact type of stuff, me suggesting that it might have leaked out of that lab is the height of conspiracy theory and lunacy, but it just popped up in bat meat somewhere. That's where you're going? One is perfectly reasonable and the other is insane? That's what they told us. One of the reasons that I would not spit on Anthony Fauci if he were on fire is because I believe people died as a result of his lying. I believe that. I know I didn't take it very seriously. I don't eat bat meat. I don't know anyone that eats bat meat. But if you had told me from the jump the truth that Anthony Fauci either knew or should have known, he knew. He knew. He knew. And he lied. I hate a liar. My goodness, I hate a liar. I'll tell you what the Wall Street Journal uncovered. What the Department of Energy believes, what the FBI believes, too, regarding where all of this came from. You already know the answer, by the way. We've known for a long, long time. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic focuses in on your health, gentlemen, and I want to talk to you. Now, if you ladies are out there listening, don't check out because you could help your guy, the man in your life, with a lot of energy issues that he might be experiencing. If you're middle-aged or a little above and you're experiencing energy loss, or maybe it's a lack of motivation in the bedroom, shall we say. Either of those situations, one does not have to necessarily be present for the other to be a problem. And that, what I mean by that is, even if you don't have any sort of bedroom issues, but you do feel like that energy loss, I want you to go ahead and get your testosterone checked. If I told you you could check this box for less than $100 and not have to worry about it again, well, that peace of mind in and of itself is something. But what if you do have low T? It's through no fault of your own, and that low T can continue to manifest itself in a lot of different ways and just make your life miserable. You need to get that checked. And if it turns out they have a lot of different ways to successfully get that testosterone level back to where it should be. Tennessee Men's Clinic can be found at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, conveniently enough, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or better yet, go ahead and give them a call, 615-208-9090, 208-9090 for my friends at Tennessee Men's Clinic. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was repairing some of my Twitter feed because I sent out this link to a story confirming what we've known for a long, long time. I mean, we don't need any additional confirmation. You and I don't. By the way, it's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you for being a part of it, either via the airwaves, the radio station itself, our apps. There's a lot of different platforms to listen, and now you can watch for those masochists out there on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch. No, I said, hey, liberals, is it y'all cool with if we call you cool if it cool we call it the China virus now? Is that cool now? And my good Twitter buddy Robert says, you mean that we weren't? Well, I was talking to the liberals. If you just reading comprehension is difficult. I mean, it says, hey, liberals. So remember, the liberals told us that it was racist to call it the China virus, despite the fact that, or Wuhan or China virus, despite the fact that viruses along these lines, per the CDC and the World Health Organization, had always been designated by their place or country of origin. That wasn't permissible anymore because, wokeness, and we got to get away from the China aspect of this because our buddies on the political left, like Joe Biden, are in bed with China. They're in bed with China. Now, I want you to remember these two things before I jump on the phones here. I want you to listen to, thanks to our friends from the RNC, candidate Biden versus President Biden regarding China's accountability. They unleashed a virus that killed millions of people around the world, either intentionally or unintentionally. Candidate Biden said this.
What I would do were I president now, I would not be taking China's word for it. I'd insist that China allow our scientists in to make a hard determination of how it started, where it's from, how far along it is.
All right, has he done any of that? I'm gonna replay it for those of you in Aniana.
What I would do were I president now, I would not be taking China's word for it. I'd insist that China allow our scientists in to make a hard determination of how it started, where it's from, how far along it is.
Okay.
Because that is not happening now.
Okay. Now, this is Joe Biden as president of the United States. Looking, by the way, even comparing what he looked like in 2020 to what he looks like now, it's night and day.
54,064 American dead from COVID-19. A lot of families want to know how this happened, how it got here. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your international partners, any of President Xi, who I know you go way back with? Have you had a chance to ask him if these reports are true that China maybe misled the world at the beginning?
No, I have not had that conversation with President Xi. Thank you.
He's yet to have that conversation with President Xi. Let's be real clear here. If you think the mainstream media that covered this up during the year that Trump was president, almost, while we knew about it, the relationship between China and the virus itself, and if you think the mainstream media and the Democrat, if you think they care about they don't care about people that are dying because of misinformation. They care about control, money, and power. And I, for one, I'm a little annoyed by it. I could have used another word, but I'm trying to have a family show during the lunchtime hour. It's 12:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so if you have guns that you use to protect your family members from, unfortunate events that might come to our lives, like a break-in or whatnot, or if you need to protect important papers from perhaps a fire in your home, I have one place to go to, and they've been around for 30 years. Their big birthday celebration is coming up, I think, in May, is what Mark told me. I'm talking about the Safe House. It is the only safe specialty company in Middle Tennessee, and they're the best. I mean, they have so many safes. I mean, I can't count them. I could not count them all in 60 seconds. I don't think count them all in 600 seconds. They have the largest selection of safes in stock and ready to go. You will see the actual safe that they put on the truck and bring to your house. They're not like these fly-by-night guys that have like 3 safes in the corners. There's a lot of dust on them. They got to dust them off. They got to find the manual. If they can find the manual, they don't know the combination. Mark and the Safe House, it's what they do. Go to the best. When you're talking Browning or Fort Knox or Liberty, they have Liberty safes now. The Safe House sets the standard that all other companies try to aspire to. Some of them don't even try. Go to the Safe House's website at NashvilleSafeHouse.com, NashvilleSafeHouse.com, or better yet, 4th Avenue South in Nashville. Tell them Murphy sent you to the Safe House. Until my dying day or they shut me down, I'll be as truthful as I possibly can with you on the Matt Murphy Show. I'll give you a heavy dose of my opinion, and I appreciate yours as well. It's 12:38 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so we'll get to your opinions momentarily regarding the latest revelations, and I guess I should back up. I should not assume that most of you have seen this story, but I'll back up. I do assume that most of you have formulated opinions about how you believe all of this started, and we deserve to know. I'm old enough to remember a time way back in the time machine. Back in 2017. Remember when the mainstream media, these snapper heads over at #NeverCNN, told us that they were simply interested in the truth? This was while they were going after Trump on Russian collusion. By the way, something they knew wasn't true. Oh, but they told us. We're simply, I'm thinking of Chris Cuomo when I think of this. He got his comeuppance, but I'm thinking of Cuomo. Golly, I hated Cuomo. Still do, really, but we're just after the truth. What is so wrong with trying to seek the truth? Hey, we're just asking questions trying to lead to the truth. We're not trying to accuse anyone of anything. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? I'm just after the truth. I just want to know what the truth is. I'll tell you what I believe. What is provably true, according to the Department of Energy and according to the FBI, is that the virus most likely leaked from Wuhan Virology Lab. Most of us would agree with that. That's the simple part. Here's what I would tell you I believe from the cockles of my nether regions. I think China did it intentionally. Now, none of us can prove that. The reason that none of us can prove that is because China doesn't want us to. In order to get to a point where we find evidence that we could piece together, circumstantial as it may be, to lead us to those conclusions in an evidence-based way, we would need access to the lab itself. We would need access to the documentation. What happened leading up? What happened then? What happened afterwards? Access that Joe Biden promised as president of the United States that he would get to the bottom of it for those American people that deserve to know where all of this started and how all of this came to our shores. And Joe Biden has not done one damn thing toward that end. Not one. Not one. Not one. I, for one, using the vernacular that my grandpa enjoyed, I've had a belly full of the lies that they tell in Washington, D.C. Oh, I'll get to the bottom of it. You haven't tried. Of course you haven't tried. Now, so do I have evidence backing up my assertion of what I believe? No, but I believe it. I believe it with every fiber of my being. Not only is there plenty of evidence pointing to the fact that it was released, at least unintentionally, by that lab in Wuhan, I believe that it was intentional. I think that China decided that they were going to upend the 2020 election cycle, and they did. Do you really believe that China cares if they kill people? Do you think they care if they kill their own citizens? They do it every day. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you will, but I've been called worse, and I was called a conspiracy theorist in 2020 because I'm not trying to pad my resume by claiming that I believed this from the beginning. I didn't. I gathered information, and by the time we knew about the virology lab that summer, I said something's weird. And by August of 2020, I said, I think this came from that damn lab. And it did. It did. Anyone saying that on Facebook or Twitter or other social media accounts at that time would have been shut down. Shut down because big tech colluded with big government to stop the truth from coming out while they were demanding that you lose your job or you lose your place of business as a result. We should not let this wound heal until we get to the truth. Ray is in Nashville with a thought on this. Hey, Ray, how are you? I'm glad you called. Is it Ray? R-A-E? R-A-Y? Hello?
Hello, are you talking to me?
It says R-A-Y-E on my screen, and there's no one over in the control room to correct me. So is this Grace?
This is Grace.
Faith. What's up?
All right.
How are you?
Well, I wanted to ask you, where were you in 2014? I'm thinking it was October, when it's the one thing I give Obama credit for. He correctly banned Fauci's research for the quote-unquote super flu that he was doing out of Chapel Hill.
Well, yeah, I understand that Obama used an executive order to stop gain-of-function research during his administration in 2014, and that led Fauci to
Wuhan.
Well, he led him to move the money, right? He moved the money overseas,
Right.
primarily to China, sure. But my point is that I couldn't have picked Fauci based on outside of that story. I couldn't have picked Fauci out of a lineup. I mean, I just couldn't have. I'm just being honest. But I remember the story.
Okay. If you recall, Dr. Jabor out of Pittsburgh did an interview in early March 2020, and I believe it was with Forbes, wherein he was talking about they were seeing a lot of blood clots with this virus, and he had said we had never seen that with a virus before, and I immediately replied to him on Facebook. We had a big, long thread about it. I said, yes, we have with HIV/AIDS. And sure enough, we found that there was 2 genome threads woven into this COVID virus that included that. So you had to know literally by April of 2020 that this was a manufactured super flu. It didn't come from no bat. You had to know that by April.
Well, obviously you didn't have to know that by April.
Well, okay, no, but a lot.
Well, I mean, if your point is you knew and nobody else knew, that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to play the game of who knew first, which
a lot of people did. I wasn't the first. I definitely wasn't the first.
Well, I'm sorry, but the point is that we can back that game. A lot of talk show hosts try to back that game up. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to establish is what we well know now and what we must demand as an American people moving forward. We need to bring Anthony Fauci up on charges.
Oh, absolutely. Do you recall, though, that President Z, when Trump was pushing hard on him, President Z came back and pushed back saying it originated from America. And then all of a sudden the mainstream media changed the narrative entirely. And I think it's because Z was fixing to nail Fauci. I really do.
Well, I do believe that our current administration in the executive branch, along with the alphabet soup bureaucracy, the NSA, the NIH, the CDC, and all the rest, they know that China has several things over the Biden administration in particular and several things hanging over the heads of the United States government in general. And I think one of those things would be the working relationship that the National Institutes of Health had with China long prior to this virus exploding out of the virology lab. And I just want to know the truth. And I think the American people deserve to know the truth. And I think it's sad that so many Americans who lost loved ones during that period of time, who lost businesses during that period of time, and we all know what happened, they're just being lied to. And sadder still are the people that believe it. They believe the lies.
Oh yeah. And I don't think we'll ever know the truth. Do you?
Not the full measure of it. I don't know that we'll ever convince enough people. I believe with every fiber of my being, and I think you do too, Gracie, that that this was done intentionally.
Yes, very much so.
And
Fauci even said that in 2018. Fauci even said Trump will face a super virus.
And
I mean, he said it publicly.
I don't know what Fauci knew and when he knew it. I wouldn't put anything past him. I mean, he sat in front of the American people in 2020 and lied to our faces about bat meat. And I mean, he knew very well what his organization in the United States of America was funding in China. He knew very well the likelihood that whether he knew it was intentional or not at that time, he dang well knew the possibility was really, really high, if not definitively, that it came from that lab. And he stood before the American people, just lied to us, just to his face while people were dying.
I think it's because, and this is just my opinion, okay, I think he did it because he wanted to advance the mRNA vaccine, because the fact is Baylor University had already produced a COVID vaccine back when SARS-CoV-1 came out, and he absolutely refused to allow that vaccine to be released. Well, he was dead set he wanted this one.
I will say this, and kind of back to your original point, most of us wanted to believe, and I'm among the people that wanted to believe my government at that point. Trump was in charge of the executive branch. Trump was in the midst of trying to drain the bureaucratic swamp. And I wanted to believe that the people that stood before us during this critical juncture were telling us the truth. And a lot of us suspected. I know I did. But I didn't. I'll be honest with you. I was not willing to go out on that limb then, because it was a very lonely place to be then. Without any evidence, without anything to back it up, because there was such a void of evidence, and when all of these medical professionals were telling us one thing, to go out and say, wait a minute, I think this was intentionally released from a lab. Plus, at that stage, and I'm just being honest, they'd shut you down.
Oh, yeah. You had to form it. You had to form it in the form of a question with extra question marks versus a statement.
Right.
Because I got tagged on it a couple of times, but I was able to appeal it, saying, wait a minute, that's a question with 3 question marks. You know, I'm not making any declaration statement whatsoever. I'm asking questions. And I'm tagging Harvard doctors to ask the question. So, yeah. But Secretary Azar, I think he was shady, because he kept telling us in news conferences that no planes were being allowed in. But yet, every day, if you go check my early March 2020 Twitter timeline, you see every single day I posted the airplanes coming out of Wuhan to here and tracking them from where they'd land in San Francisco and then where they would go from there. And sure enough, that's where the outbreaks were starting. And I think Secretary Azar was just as much swamp as anything else. Can't prove it. That's just what I think. Don't hate me. Don't send me hate mail.
I'm not. Look, I don't dismiss any theories. I try not to do that. Thank you so much, Grace, for the call. I try not to call them conspiracy theories anymore. I mean, there was a time in my radio career that I was very dismissive of some of the more radical conspiracy theories. And, you know, some of them strike close to home, and I'm still rather dismissive of them. You know, the 9/11 stuff. I mean, come on, man. But I dismiss less and less because I don't put anything past the deep state. You don't think the deep state's willing to do some of these things to protect themselves? I do. Larry, we'll get to you momentarily. It's 12:52 on Supertalk 99.7 WT. And still to come, the Joe Biden interview that you probably did not see because not a lot of people are watching ABC. I already had someone correct me on the name. I said David Muir. They said, no, that's David Manure. There's a spoken N that's not in the spelling. Okay, I get it. Plus, the NTSB laughably has to refute the liberal Trump fault media with regard to East Palestine. We'll get into that in a moment as well. 12:53 Super Talk. It's getting up to 77 degrees today. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we know what we're dealing with when we live in the South, and this time of year, February becomes March, and some days it's 40 or maybe even below that. I think we have one more cold snap in us, but here's what I know. Spring is here. I'm seeing a lot of leaves and a lot of trees in my yard. I'm seeing a lot of blossoms and blooms, and that tells me that you need to get that AC check. That's right. It's time, friends. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling want to be your go-to source for all things air conditioning this spring and summer. And it's time to get that maintenance done. So it's time for me to tell you, you get your teeth checked, right? You get your teeth cleaned. When you don't have a toothache, you go to the dentist. When you don't have a car issue, you go and get the oil changed in your automobile because you want to maintain and make sure that the maintenance level on that equipment is up to snuff. Well, how about maintaining that AC as well? You'll never pay over $125 for any maintenance call with Jeff Eddy, Efficient Heating and Cooling. And I like this because it's honest as the day is long. It's a theme of the day. So he recognizes if you have 4 or more units, then that's what it's going to cost you, $125. If you only have one, it's going to cost you less than that $125 price point. Jeff Eddy, Efficient Heating and Cooling. Go ahead and make the schedule today. EfficientHVAC.net or 615-784-4424. 784-4424 for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Coming up, Senator Bowling of the General Assembly will be with us to talk about medical marijuana in the state of Tennessee and her bill to pursue that effort. We'll also continue with your telephone calls, and we'll tell you how the NTSB has responded to the liberal talking point that the train derailment in Ohio was Donald Trump's fault. That is all on the way on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Are you still having trouble with back pain or neck pain? Maybe, your shoulder hurts, or perhaps it's a knee, and you've not called the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin yet? Well, I would ask you, why not? What's holding you up? I'm telling you, if you have a misconception about chiropractic care and what it can do for you, I want to shed all of those misconceptions. I want to help you lose all of those stereotypes that you may have heard years ago, and I want you to call the Dr. Gill Center right now. They can successfully treat your back pain, your neck pain, your knee pain, your joint pain without the need for pills and without the consideration for surgery and help you find relief in your life. It's as simple as a telephone call. And right now, $23. I mean, this thing's not going to last forever, but right now it is $23 at the Dr. Gill Center. An examination, x-rays, a complete review of findings. But hurry, the offer is limited. It will not last forever. Give them a call now at this number. It's a new number. I have to look at it here. 615-882-4838. 882-4838. Call that number. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Dr. Gill Center. I'm sending you to pain relief through the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. All right, here we are. Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show is in progress. Pleased you've joined us on this Monday edition, February the 27th. February's end always sneaks up on me. Or no, I take that back. It's not the end of February. It's the beginning of March that sneaks up on me. When it's February 26th, as it was yesterday, and people are talking about things that are happening March 2nd, does anybody else feel this way? I feel like it's like 2 weeks away when it's February 26th, when it's really like 5 days away. I don't know. I don't know why this is, but 49 years of life, and I've not gotten over it. So, March will be here by midweek, and we can't get there fast enough. I enjoy the springtime. I love all the seasons. I do. I don't pick a favorite. I think there are good. There's good. I mean, winter's there last as always, but I don't know. I like all of them. But I look forward to spring, the blossoming. All right, we look forward to the conversation that we're about to have with Senator Janice Bowling regarding medical marijuana. I've not been in Tennessee very long, but I've well established in my life as a talk radio host my belief that if we can find ways to remedy pains and ailments and other maladies in an individual's life through natural means, through any medical means possible, that I'm willing to do that. Obviously, if you find someone with a terminal illness or someone in a tremendous amount of pain or going through nausea because of chemotherapy or whatever it might be, someone going through epileptic seizures and unable to control those, if I told you there was something that could help those individuals, I think that you would sit up and listen. Since I have started talking about this 20 or so years ago, there have been so many different medical studies that have indicated as much, that marijuana can be used from a medical perspective to alleviate some of the aforementioned situations that I speak of. And so when I came to Tennessee 2 Decembers ago in 2021, I mean, honestly, I was a little surprised that there was not more conversation about medical marijuana and its use in the state of Tennessee. With that in mind, we welcome Senator Janice Bowling to the show to talk about her history with the idea of medical marijuana, her research, and her bill that she's presenting in the General Assembly. Senator, thank you so much for being on with us today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt, and I sincerely appreciate this opportunity. And you should have left the door open to Alabama a little bit more, because in June of 2021, I actually was invited down to be a guest for the Governor Ivey signing my bill that had been passed into law in Alabama.
So you got your bill passed in Alabama quicker than you got it passed in Tennessee, is that right?
That is correct. A doctor, and I'll call him Dr. Jerry because I mutilate his last name, but he was director of neurology at UAB. He saw my bill online about 4 years ago now, and he sent a state rep and a state senator by connection to the state rep up here to see if they could please use my bill in Alabama. Dr. Jerry had discovered the many uses for medical cannabis in neurology, and they were trying to make their own bill, and he called them one day and said, "Stop it, we don't need a bill." And they said, "What, has something terrible happened?" He said, "No, there's a bill already written that does exactly what it needs to do. It will give us a well-regulated, safe medical cannabis program that is fully legal because it is in trust state, which makes it legal since 2014.
So this is Dr. Jerry, I mangle his last name, Slavarsky with UAB?
Yes, that's right.
Boy, it's a small world, Senator. So I was good friends with Dustin Chandler, who is the father of Carly.
Yes.
And Dustin came on my radio show in 2014 and wanted my help. Of course, he's a former law enforcement officer. And Carly, for those that don't know the backstory, Carly had a condition called CDKL5, which created just a series of seizures in her daily life and severely limited her ability to function normally. And it was his understanding that CBD oil would be effective in stopping some of the seizures. And he said, Matt, I need your help. We need to get to the legislature. You know a lot of people in the legislature. And Janice, I told him at the time, I said, Dustin, it is an election year. It is 2014, buddy. I said, I support you fully. I'll help you any way I can, but there is zero chance of you getting this passed this year. He said, I'm going to try it, and I helped him. I introduced him to a couple of lawmakers who were supportive of his cause, and I watched him go door to door in that legislative session, Janice. And I watched him introduce lawmakers to his daughter and tell them her story, and it chokes me up thinking about it. And he got
Mike Ball. You got
Mike and Mike Ball was so instrumental in and truly felt like it was a God thing, and I believed that too. So it's wonderful to meet you via the telephone, considering that we know a lot of the same people, and you've been working toward the same effort. Talk to me about how you came to the realization beyond recreational marijuana, which I think screws up these conversations so often, how you came to the realization that this truly was a remedy for many of these medical issues.
Well, Matt, I have a reputation for studying the legislation I'm carrying and studying the things that are going on. And Jeremy Faison, a state rep, about 5 years ago, came to my office to ask me to support a bill that he was carrying regarding medical cannabis. I told him to get out of my office post haste. I didn't want to hear any of that misinformation, that I was strongly opposed it. I had carried the legislation that eliminated the bill that allowed the meth clinics and the opioid clinics, not meth clinics, but the opioid clinics in Tennessee, public chapter, it was the law of 2001, the Intractable Pain Act of 2001, long before I got here. But when I got here, that was one of the first main bills I carried to try to eliminate that horrible opioid addiction across our state. And I said, I've done that, and now here you come with same song, second verse. And he said, no, Senator Bowling, no. He said, please, I know you study. If you'll just study the facts and read the works of Dr. Raphael Mechoulam of Israel, then you will understand that this is very, very good, non-addictive, no deaths ever recorded. I said, Jeremy, get out of my office. And he said, okay. So he left. But he left material behind, and he left links behind. And I did research, I did look, and I called Jeremy back and apologized a few weeks later because he was correct. There's been so much misinformation since Nixon. And Big Pharma especially doesn't like medical cannabis because what they do like is synthetics. And medical cannabis is such a miracle drug. It's one of the green plants and herbs that God created for us, and he said they are good, and in fact, they are. And so when I looked at the research and found out that Dr. Mechoulam in 1988 and 1992 had discovered the endocannabinoid systems that exist in every human body. CB1, central nervous system, and of course that's what Dr. Jerry Slavarsky, as we both kind of say his name wrong there, but that's what he recognized with neurology. And then also CB2, which is the peripheral nervous system and also the immune system. So we have in our bodies receptors for medical cannabis, and they are the non-addictive receptors. So it is the best of all worlds in all the terpenes, the trace cannabinoids that are in the plant. They are what makes it work so miraculously. And, you know, we have CBD, and that's wonderful, but it's the THC that kind of acts like kerosene on a fire. It actually helps the CBD to burn faster and longer with the healing properties that are in both of them.
Our guest is Senator Janice Bowling, talking about her legislation regarding medical marijuana in the state of Tennessee. I was speaking with Representative Scott Sapicki. He comes on with us once a week and kind of offers a legislative roundup from the House perspective, Janice. And he said, he understands the studies. He's kind of I don't know that he's a hard no, but he's probably a no. I think I can say that. And I asked him, well, what is your issue if you recognize that there's some efficacy? He said, well, I don't like picking winners and losers in terms of distribution and growth and this sort of thing. And I understand that. I understand that there was a lot of consternation when John McMillan and others back in Alabama they passed the legislation and created the bill and then had to start taking bids and whatnot about how they would get their product to those that needed it. Talk to me about the nuts and bolts of your bill and how that would happen.
Okay, it is similar to their bill, obviously, because they took my bill.
Right.
The first 18 months, there is a process whereby the commission is appointed by the governor and the two speakers, and there are areas of competency that they would have to be some of those appointments. And then this has to be an intra-state program. That's what makes it legal with the Rohrabacher Amendment that's attached to the federal omnibus budget bill every year and has been since 2014. That's why all of these requirements, some residency requirements for people that get the licenses, all of these things protect the product to make sure that this will be a Tennessee regulated, Tennessee controlled. Now, the first 18 months, my bill limits the number of licenses to the major urban areas, which of course are Memphis and Nashville and Knoxville, and I think Chattanooga gets one as well. But then those are certain, they're vertically integrated licenses, so whoever bids on them, so to speak, and applies for them, the ones, there would only be 4 vertically integrated. Well, that's the same as multiple licenses in some ways because they have to be responsible for the growth, for the transportation, for the production, and for the distribution, the actual selling of the product. Why would I do that? Because I think it's very important that we don't end up with everyone rushing to get a sale license, a distribution license, or everybody wanting just to grow it. You've got to have the balanced industry with all the components of what would be involved seed to sale. And these are tracked electronically, the seed or the very small plant. From seed to sale, there's the technology available now to do that so that you don't get any diversion. And these products, then, to get to the patient, the goal of my bill is to get a very safe, very legal product and a very affordable product. That's why it's so important that we don't wait until medical cannabis is taken off schedule. If we wait till then, the great rushing sound in Tennessee is going to be product coming in from all over the world, some of it good and a lot of it not.
When you and I don't want to get in front of too many people who are listening right now, Senator. When you say taken off schedule, what do you mean by that?
Right now, since Nixon, of course, since 72, I guess, marijuana of any sort has been scheduled. It's been deemed to have no medical efficacy, and I'm glad you touched on that earlier, because when Dr. Meshulam, and let me make sure that's clear though, no medical efficacy, no way that this helps anybody medically. It is just a recreational, dangerous drug, is what they're saying. They don't say that it's not addictive. They don't say that it won't kill anybody. But we're not even talking about recreational. We're talking about medical cannabis, which is there for specifically the conditions. Some of them you have mentioned, and they're not A to Z, but they are A to Y, starting with cancer, glaucoma, epilepsy, then post-traumatic stress for our veterans, chronic radiculopathy, severe psoriasis. All of these different things are known to be treatable with medical cannabis. So when we look at what taking it off schedule would mean, was that the federal government has realized that it has medical efficacy, and then they would open the doors, if you will, for the product to be like any other product. There would be no federal felony for transporting, for using, for selling, for growing any of this product. The issue with that, as far as medical cannabis is concerned, is that we will be getting in lots of product from all over the world, literally, and no ability for Tennessee to assure our citizens, yes, this has been tested by a third-party lab, this is good product. And as I said, it's the first 18 months that have the restrictions on the urban licenses, and then correspondingly for each of the 3 grand divisions, there would be 4 licenses, and they can go into the counties that surround them as well for growing and for doing the other things that are necessary to get the product to the patient. But when you talk about medical efficacy, and I told you about Dr. Raphael Mechoulam clearly demonstrating the endocannabinoid system and the benefits it was having in cases of neurology and whatever, well, Matt, guess who rushed out and got a patent?
Who's that?
Your favorite friend, Anthony Fauci, through NIH. And he got the patent at NIH. And so in 2003, they started researching medical cannabis. And they were researching it and had several, I call them shadow companies, Canna Life Sciences out of New York and GW Pharmaceuticals out of Great Britain. And they were creating synthetic and very expensive product. They were creating a portfolio. In 2019, that patent expired, but Canna Life Sciences picked it up. And by February the 20th of 2020, they had that portfolio approved in Fauci's favorite place, China. So they already have the capability to start production of things that the federal government has been getting royalties off of since they were first compounded and created synthetically since 2003, 2004, whenever they really got things on the market.
Senator, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but as you might expect, our conversation generates a lot of questions from the listening audience. Can we take a short break and I can relate some of those questions that are coming in via our super text line so you can answer them? Do you have time?
I will do my best. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Senator Janice Bowling is with us. She's carrying a bill that would legalize medical marijuana, would allow for the production and dispensing of medical marijuana in the state of Tennessee. And, obviously I'm in favor of it. For those of you who aren't, please, on the super text line, ask your questions. It's a good opportunity to do so, understanding that this bill is moving through the General Assembly right now. 615-737-9986. Back in a moment. All right, friends, you know by now, if you've listened for any length of time, how much I enjoy auto racing. Whether it's NASCAR or open wheel racing, I absolutely love it. Can't get enough. And it's time to get it on in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City. It's the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. You know what's not a bummer? Getting the early tickets to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Nashville's known for being Music City, USA, and the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, you'll find plenty of that. There's a lot of things to do at this race. It's 3 days of racing and music and food and racing and more music and more food and more racing. It is going to be a blur. It's going to go by fast. New for 2023, the Saturday night racing, the return of the high-flying stadium super trucks, tons and tons of racing capped off by Sunday's NTT IndyCar Series, racing through the streets of Nashville. You've seen it on television television. You've seen clips of it on your local news. Now experience it in person. Get your tickets. It's going to be the party of the year. You bet your asphalt. All right, tickets can be found simply at the website. It's, by the way, I should tell you, August 4th through the 6th in downtown Nashville. The 4th through the 6th in downtown Nashville. Get amped up by snagging your tickets to MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com. All right, Belle, how are people seeing my hat? I was confused. I guess it is magic because I thought we were on break. But, that is. I can't put it on. I can't leave my hat on when I put my headphones on. There you go. All right, 615-737-9986. We have Senator Janice Bowling on with us discussing her legislation. Before I ask a few of the questions of the listening audience, and there are a lot of them, Senator, I'll ask you this. Where are you in the process? You've been doing this for a number of years. Do you find that you – well, let me ask you. Do you believe you have the support to get it past the Senate and potentially the House?
I never presume on any vote. You can know that you're presenting the facts and the truth, Matt. Then it's going to be up to the members of these committees to listen to the facts and see the truth as is readily available and make a vote that's in the best interest of the citizens of Tennessee. The citizens of Tennessee have stated their approval at 82 to 88% Memphis to Mountain City.
So a lot of people are telling me that they don't want it to most of the questions that I'm getting, or many of the questions, I should say, that I'm getting, revolve around the possibility of this becoming a slippery slope and leading to recreational marijuana. It's the question that I've gotten over the years that I've done this and talked about it. It's the question that we got more often in Alabama than any other. The biggest concern is that it would lead to recreational. When you get this question, and I'm certain you do, Senator, how do you answer it?
Well, some people say you're going to bring marijuana into Tennessee, and I just explained to them I'm a day late, a dollar short on that. What I'm trying to get in is legal medical cannabis. There is a $1 billion black market right now with illegal drugs in the state of Tennessee. Some of the people probably who go to get some of that, a very small number of them, are actually people who are desperate to get something that will help their loved one with the things, as you said, ALS, Parkinson's disease, end-of-life palliative care, all the 33 well-known, well-documented treatments that can be treated. So, no, this bill has tight regulatory oversight. On the commission, there are law enforcement people to make sure that everything has no diversion into any other market. And in the states that have legalized recreational marijuana, those are states with referendum, it's called. And so those people actually got to go to the polls and vote, do we want marijuana, recreational marijuana in our state? I've heard from many. Go ahead.
No. I didn't want to interrupt you. You finish your thought.
Yes. So the fact that recreational marijuana is in, I think, 11 states legally has nothing to do with medical cannabis. There are 37 states and the District of Columbia that have legalized medical marijuana, medical cannabis. And those states are doing very well. The people have a choice now if they want to get addictive opioids or fentanyl or other things that's being given, or if they want a non-deadly, non-addictive treatment that actually helps their condition much better than any pharmaceutical synthetic.
Yeah, I don't want to be dismissive of a lot of these questions, and I know that I feel like you would feel the same way, Senator, in as much as I want to attract as many flies with honey as I can as opposed to with vinegar, right? So I don't want to dismiss someone that says, well, you're just bringing marijuana to the state of Tennessee when you and I both know I've walked down Lower Broadway.
Right.
I don't have, I don't have to see it to know that it's already here. It already exists, and that horse is somewhat out of the barn. Look, I hope we have many future conversations about this, hopefully to educate. Maybe we can get you in studio. Heck, we can talk to Dr. Slavarki from Birmingham, and he would offer a great level of medical expertise. I think I could manage that to happen.
That would be awesome, yeah.
Just before we go, though, tell us where it is in the political process right now. Are you in committee?
I am in committee. I was in committee last week, and it was rolled till this week, and tomorrow it's supposed to be heard in Judiciary Committee at 3:00. I have a meeting later today with the chairman. He wants to talk about something. I don't know what it is, but I will be presenting it. Now, there's a long rostrum there tomorrow, and I am number 57, which is actually the last bill on the committee's agenda.
Senator, best of luck. If there's anything that we can do, please let us know, and we look forward to future conversations. It's good to finally meet you via the phone, and I look forward to our in-person conversation.
Thank you so much. The same here. Talk with you later.
Take care. There's Janice Bowling, who is a senator sponsoring marijuana legislation, medical marijuana legislation in the state of Tennessee. If you have any questions about this, I think I have enough experience in it that I can answer a few of the questions coming in on the super text line as well as your calls, 615-737-9986. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. When you go by Savory Spice, either the location in Franklin, just off the square, right next to Gray's Drugstore, or if you stop by the location in Nashville at L&L Market, Oh, man, oh, man. One, you can put in your hand any spice that they have on the shelves. I love the way they do this, right? If you wanna just smell it or try it out, you take it out of the shaker, you shake it into your hand, you kind of smell of it. You can taste it if you so desire, and then you put it right on the Holly loves to show this demonstration. You just kind of toss it right on the floor and move on to the next thing. Because when it comes time to purchasing the spice, they'll bring it out and they will bottle you your own individualized bottle of whatever spice you're looking for, whether it's the salts, the peppers, the blends. I'm telling you, this stuff is fabulous. Up your spice game, people. I'll tell you, I'm addicted to the Alderwood smoked salt. Alderwood smoked sea salt. Just try it. You'll absolutely love it. It's got give you a little bit of that flavor in with your salt. My wife loves the salt and pepper combination. Seems simple, right? But it is a perfect blend, a perfect combination of salt and pepper. So you're shaking out of one shaker as opposed to shaking out of two. Look, you buy the nice, cut of salmon. You buy the nice filet. You buy the best veggies at the fresh market. And then you put those awful spices on them. Stop that. Up your spice game at Savory Spice. 2 locations, Nashville at L&L Market and off the square in Franklin.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If, on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Man, oh man, a lot of reaction to our conversation with Senator Janice Bowling. If you missed any of it, you'll be able to find it right at the conclusion of our show on Supertalk 99.7 WTN's website. That's 997WTN.com. You can also find plenty of links there to go to Supertalk TV, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter. I have no idea how you guys saw me in my hat, but you did. So there it is. There's my hat. I'm not wearing my hat right now, however. So a lot of questions about medical marijuana. And I'm going to try to answer as many as I possibly can. And if I don't know the answer, we'll get somebody on that can. For example, 4462 says, it'll never happen in Tennessee. Your bleep, bleep buddy Bill Lee will never agree. He is a holy roller. It's the Bible Belt. Thank you for being here. So, I don't know. I frankly, I have a spiritual piece to this. that I don't necessarily have to get in today, but, what if this is why it's here? God put it here. God put it here. What if this is why it's here? I watched a little girl, a 5-year-old girl, and I'm not trying to be too maudlin or sappy here, but this is true. In the state of Alabama, I watched a 5-year-old girl go from over 200 seizures a day, 200 seizures a day, to less than 20 because of the use of CBD oil with a small amount of THC in it. Now, if that's not a God thing, I don't know what is. So often we assume the worst when talking about marijuana. That, they're just after the high. They're just after recreational use. And a lot of people are. I get that. I understand. Those individuals, and look, I would consider myself among them, all right? I have zero interest in the government making something like marijuana illegal when they have a bigger fish to fry with regard to fentanyl and pharmaceutical-grade drugs that are made in laboratories. What fascinates me, the number of people that claim that they are with me with regard to Big Pharma. They're with me when it comes to OxyContin and other opioids and fentanyl and other laboratory-made drugs. But then when you talk about medical marijuana, they go, well, what about Marinol? So you're going to hand the keys of the kingdom to Big Pharma, an organization that you already said you don't trust, and allow them to make a synthetic version of what we already have naturally and charge you exorbitant amounts of money for a less effective product. It doesn't make any sense. I understand the fears, and I am sensitive to them. I'm not trying to run you folks away from the issue. But I'm a believer. I've seen it. I've seen it work. And I get personal on this issue. My mother had a malignant brain tumor when I was 5 years old, and I watched her waste away for years because of the radiation treatment and the chemotherapy that she had to undergo to eradicate the rest of the tumor and the after effects of that radiation. I watched her waste away to nothing. And I sat in the room when she died. I was in the room when she died. And if I had the ability to offer her any relief at any point in time during her life, of any sort, I would have done it. So, yeah, I mean, I get a little personal on it. And I get it. The drug's already here, right? I wouldn't know where to buy marijuana on a bet. But I promise you that I could leave and go get it because it's already here illegally on the black market. So that's my 3 cents. I'd love to hear from you, even if you disagree with me. That's what this is all about. This robust public debate is all about disagreement. Disagreement often goes to the front of the line. Kevin says I'm wrong. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Matt. I don't agree with your position on the approval of marijuana for medical use. And if I understood you a minute ago, you would even be for recreational use. And you said that the government has bigger fish to fry.
I'm not for recreational use. I am for freedom, though.
Well, freedom. What about the alcoholic who drinks and goes out and kills somebody?
Well,
he or she does so because the alcohol impairs the mind. Well, marijuana does the same thing.
So
I've got a lot of friends who started with
alcohol's legal, though. Would you want alcohol? Had you your way, you would want alcohol to be illegal?
Absolutely.
What about caffeine?
Caffeine?
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine doesn't impair the mind.
It most certainly does. It most certainly does, sir.
Nah.
It most certainly does.
Not any search that I've ever done.
Sir, it's a drug. Caffeine's a drug. What about smoking?
Well, I see
cigarettes.
smoking as something that's harmful to the body for certain.
Right. So you would. So
in general.
I'm just trying to establish a baseline. Yeah. So alcohol, smoking, cigarettes should be illegal. Anything else?
Well, I mean, you want to spend all day on it?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, there are a lot of things certainly that our civil government has approved that through the years probably should not have been. And am I for freedom of speech, freedom of personal rights? Absolutely. But we've got to also understand, and I try to do this with my positions as well, is that my rights end where somebody else's begins.
I understand that. That's why I am a big believer in drunk driving laws and preventing, from a legal perspective, an individual who is impaired on any sort of pharmaceutical, drugs or otherwise, alcohol, marijuana, or anything, to get behind the wheel of a car and operate a motor vehicle. It's wrong. It's wrong. What about opioids generally? Do you think they have enough?
Let's go back to the marijuana. Do you think that if it's approved medically that eventually somebody's going to get it, or it's going to be approved for recreational? I think we're heading down that slippery slope.
I can answer that. Yeah, I think within 15 or 20 years, marijuana use will be legal across the United States of America.
And therefore, if that's the case, and I think you're right, and if that's the case, then people are going to use it recreationally, just the same as what they do alcohol. They're going to get behind the wheel.
They already are. They already are, sir.
Well, but now we're going to make it legal.
Well, but what I'm telling you is that prohibition of alcohol did not diminish use of alcohol in the United States of America. And marijuana legality or illegality does not diminish the use of marijuana. People are using marijuana right now in Nashville, Tennessee, or in Murfreesboro.
But what we're going to do is we're going to make it wide open.
No. You can actually legalizing the product, much like we've done with alcohol, can give governments a better ability to regulate, to ensure that people are safer while responsibly consuming the product, as opposed to getting it on the black market where you don't know what the hell you're getting.
Responsibly yeah.
You don't believe that I can responsibly have a glass of wine with a meal?
How does one get drunk?
Do you not believe that? No. Well, I'll answer your question when you answer mine. Do you believe that someone can responsibly have a glass of wine at dinner and then drive their family home?
No, I do not. And you probably look at me as being radical, and that's okay.
It's just your opinion. It's just your opinion. I mean, so
yeah.
You
Out
would
of all the years that I have listened to talk to radio, you've taken a position that I've never heard any of the others take, and I'll be honest. I mean, it challenges me, not in a good way. I mean, I don't agree with you. I can't go there.
Yeah, but I mean that's okay, right, Kevin? It's okay if we disagree on this singular issue.
Yeah, I mean we can agree to disagree, I guess, but at the same time, I'm a Christian. I'm very conservative in my positions, and I grew up in an era where marijuana was the main drug. I never tried it. I'm thankful for that. Had friends who did, and that was the stepping stone to other drugs. And many of them had their lives messed up today. So
I don't appreciate
us trying to go down that road.
Well, I'm not trying to go down any road. I believe in freedom. I believe in one man's ability to choose or not to choose. I believe in free will, and I think you would too, Kevin, as a Christian man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I would say this: when we talk about gateway drugs, the number one gateway drug in existence is caffeine. It is more often than not the first mood-altering drug that any human being consumes. It's caffeine. Yeah, you don't have a problem, but you don't have a problem with it. But you don't have a problem with the Coca-Cola.
I can say that it's mood-altering. Can be.
Well, of course. I mean, what do you mean can be? Of course it is. That's why people drink it. Of course it is. But Kevin, here's the thing. I want to keep this. I love you. I do, and I hope you feel the same with me. And I don't want you to turn away from what I hope to be a long-standing relationship because we disagree on this issue. I vehemently believe in freedom, freedom for one to choose. That doesn't mean that I advance the cause of marijuana. I advance the cause of medical marijuana because I've seen its efficacy. And I have a hard time believing that God would put something on this earth that can be as wonderful and effective as medical marijuana and not have it here for a positive purpose.
Well, you promote the cause as a public talk show host whenever you stand in support of it. I mean, you have thousands of listeners that hear you, and they base their opinion sometime off of what you.
Well, they probably shouldn't do that. I would encourage people to listen to me and
do the research themselves
and research themselves. And look, and once again, I can feel in your tone and in your voice how passionately you believe in this, and I have every respect in your opinion, Kevin. Every respect in the world.
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking my call.
Hey, I appreciate you making it. Thank you, Kevin, for the telephone call. 150 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's my honor to tell you about Paul Winkler and everything he does for his customers. Now, it's my obligation, because I'm required to tell you that I get paid to do this. It's a requirement that the federal government imposes upon financial services. Now, I understand rules are rules, but I also understand this. I love the way Paul Winkler does his business, and I'll tell everybody and twice on Sunday that fact. Paul Winkler's message is simple. You need to be educated with regard to your finances. You need to understand how he can assist you. You need to understand concepts like relative loss. The investment education is so key, and it's evidence-based. It is backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. Now, you know me. I would not tell you these things if I didn't fully believe in them. I think you're going to see a difference with a telephone conversation that's going to last you about 15 minutes. 615-851-1950. 615-851-1950. Or go online at paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. When you talk to Paul or one of his qualified agents, tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to my friend, Paul Winkler. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I promised you there was lots to cover. We still have our Joe Biden interview with David Manure to get to. We'll play a little stop and go in the final hour if I get to it. Also, the NTSB refutes the liberal line that it was Donald Trump's fault that these trains derailed in Ohio. We'll talk about that locally. The Titans stadium deal seems a little bit closer to completion. Right now, however, a great conversation ongoing about our talk with Senator Janice Bowling and the possibility of a medical marijuana bill getting past the General Assembly and on the desk of Governor Bill Lee. Your thoughts on that? A lot of thoughts coming in on the super text line. And look, I understand that reasonable people can disagree. I think I'm right on this issue. I think it is a freedom issue. I do think it is a medical issue. But I understand you might disagree with it. And I get that. And I think we can reasonably disagree on these things. Larry's in Clarksville. Larry's been holding for some time. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course, Larry.
Well, and we've spoken before. You know a little bit about my background. First of all, you know, Cumulus can't afford, and I know you're not going to pay for Jay St. Clair to be on with you every day. Second of all, you know, Bill needs to get back on camera. But the most important issue, and like I said, I got to go back to
the segment. Call him out! Woo! Call him out. I love that, Larry.
Yes.
McMurray and I love it.
Way to go, Larry.
Way to go.
Well, I'm just saying, I got to go back a couple of segments because I've been on here for a minute.
I know you have.
Brother. Anthony Fauci lied under oath to Congress. He needs to be investigated. His funds needs to be investigated. And if found guilty, he needs to be buried with Hillary.
I agree, Larry. Larry, could not agree with you more. Anthony Fauci needs to go to jail.
Yes, he does. And one of these days, I hope to get to ride my darn Harley with you.
Come on, man.
And take you across Tennessee, brother.
You still got your goat up there, or did you give him away?
I gave him to he's now my ex-brother-in-law.
Was his name Hank, right?
Yes, and he's still as mean as ever.
Too much head button?
Look, dude, he knocked me over like 4 times.
Oh, no. Well,
I can't. He weighed 190 pounds.
You know what you need? You know what you need to give Hank?
Oh, I know what I almost gave him like 3 or 4 times.
A little medical marijuana, a little something in his food, man. Come on, a little CBD in the food. Chill that damn goat out. Come on now. Give him some of that. What is that stuff called? That horny goat? No, that's different. No. Don't give him that. Don't give him that. It's 2:00. Here comes McMurray. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 75 degrees and now pretty sunny. The clouds going away, the rain away right now in Nashville. Turning out to be a pretty nice day. Weather coming up in just a few minutes. Starting right now in Tennessee and Nashville, specifically Antioch, a 4-year-old child has died after accidentally shooting himself inside of a house in Antioch. Police were called around 4:30 yesterday morning after it had happened. Officials have not yet reported where the child found that gun. This is all being investigated by youth services, and according to Tennessee law, the adults or parents inside could be charged with crimes. In this case, it's not known yet whether that will happen. The Supreme Court today set to start hearing arguments for and against President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program. Devin Dwyer has a debrief.
The U.S. Education Department last year, citing a need to protect the greater good during the pandemic, invoked emergency powers.
This is a game changer.
The agency offering to absolve as much as $20,000 of federal student loans for more than 40 million eligible borrowers. But the plan's $430 billion price tag didn't sit well with Republicans in 6 states, who saw it as a bailout exclusive to college students.
COVID-19 news, a story published by the Wall Street Journal this weekend on the origin of COVID-19 after the Department of Energy reportedly theorized that the virus could have originated from an accidental lab leak in Wuhan. But Chinese officials are pushing back on that theory.
Experts around the world say China could clear up much of this mystery if it dropped its secrecy and belligerence and agreed to a far greater transparency into that Wuhan lab. But this morning, the Chinese Foreign Ministry responded to the Energy Department finding, telling the U.S. to, quote, stop speculating.
That was Terry Moran reporting, and the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hello, it is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, 206. Good afternoon. Glad you're with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can also join us via our application. That would be shortened to app. You can go to any streaming platform of your choosing and find it there, or you can find us on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I love being on the old Super Talk TV. And I think you can see that in my face. Once Bell clicked it, are you clicking it over there? See, you know what? If you were on the tube a little more, you'd remember to do it. I know. It's just force of habit. I get that. I'm not coming down on you. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number if you'd like to be a part of the show. That's also the super text line, and you're invited to be a part of that as well. We got Mac Morey back in the newsroom. We have Bell K in the control area, you on the phones, and a lot of subjects to cover in the last hour. We got to many of them over the first 2 hours. I still have to tell you about my TECC course and how incredible it was. I was off Friday taking this incredible training course offered by Defense Systems. It was over at Glock Store, Nashville, McGill's Glock Store, and what an experience it truly was. We talked to Anthony Fauci Wet markets, Wuhan. The Chinese people lied, and Anthony Fauci furthered that lie, and he needs to be brought up on charges as a result. Speaking of lying, the NTSB has refuted. I don't know that they've called the Biden administration liars with regard to the accusations being leveled at the Trump administration, but they've gone pretty close to it, saying, look, none of this would have mattered with regard to East Palestine. It is a fascinating case study in how the media, many of them, have merely become sycophants for the Democrat Party. It is a propaganda way. Hashtag never CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, all of the alphabet soup networks, Washington Post, New York Times, all of it. They've become minions for the Biden administration. Everything they do is couched in terms of whether it will look good or bad for Biden. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me when I'm wrong here. And so it goes that they were parrots to the narrative that, well, the Trump administration, they deregulated the trade industry back in 2018. And, oh, boy, that's the problem. And you need to blame Donald Trump if you blame anyone. Which isn't true. There's a lie going on there. So that's lie number two. We had the Chinese Wuhan virus lie. Yeah, that lie. Apparently, Congressman Andy Ogles has lied. Now, I'm loath to get into this because I know that I'll get a myriad of super texts. You just hate Andy Ogles. Andy Ogles is in your head. Andy Ogles is in my news feed because he can't get his story straight as to what he studied in college. Bell, did you graduate college? You did not. Maury, did you graduate college?
Yes, sir.
And by the way, nothing wrong with that, Bell. I mean, no. You're more accomplished than Maury and I put together. Maury, what was your degree?
Journalism.
Why'd you say it that way?
Well, because
you're using the degree. Look at you.
I am. That's true.
Look at you.
I'm using it.
Do you realize that most of the people, your classmates that study journalism alongside you, they're now working at Starbucks?
Yeah. I'm
or
blessed.
Home Depot or whatever. I mean, come on, man.
No, I'm thankful.
You've got talent given from God, and you're utilizing it on a regular basis.
Appreciate it.
Journalism. You're the good kind. You're the good. You're one of the
steady paycheck in it. Mm-hmm. I'll believe anything you say.
There you go. So my major was in theater. I was a theater major, mass comm minor. I also minored in English. So I have two minors and a major. Now, I'm 49 years old. It did not take me long to come up with that because my grandfather taught me you don't have to remember the truth. You don't have to remember the truth. The truth just comes to you. It's amazing how that is. It either comes to you, the truth comes to you, or I don't remember comes to you. You know what? You never falsely remember something. I mean, well, you tell me. I mean, I don't presume what you know and what you don't know. I will say this. You are hard-pressed to convince me that you could imprint a false memory on someone and they don't know that they're lying. More on that coming up in a moment. First, I'm going to flush the lines a little bit. We had a great conversation ongoing about medical marijuana, and many of you wanted to weigh in on it. And so I'm going to go rapid fire, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful for any one of you on the lines. As a matter of fact, I could just say, hey, we're going to move on to other subjects, and then you're hanging out there. I don't want to do that because I love when you call me so much. So I'm going to go rapid fire. I'm going to start with Janet in Columbia talking about medical marijuana. Hey, Janet, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Matt. Love your show.
Thank
I know you're trying to do this quick. I am a Christian myself. I am all about the rules. But I have to say, I think that gentleman that called earlier would completely change his mind if he had a loved one like I did that had cancer. And he said, Janet, I know you're visiting me and I know you don't like this, but I have to smoke this. It's the only thing that will allow me to relax enough to sleep. If you have a loved one, you want that to happen. I totally get, I don't want to drive on the roads with people using it for entertainment or however you word that, just to do it. But medically, yes, I think it is imperative to pass that here.
Well, God bless you. And your compassion is obvious in your voice, Janet. And I appreciate you offering those thoughts. I'm sorry that I have to do it so quickly, but I do want to go and move on to as many as I can get to. But God bless you, and God bless that loved one of yours. And I hope that they're okay. I hope that they're comforted. Let's put it that way. Melody is next in Woodbury. Hello, Melody. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
I just wanted people out there to know there was another issue about this. It's called peyote. The Indians had that, and they used it quite a bit, and the white world would not allow it to come out the reservations. But it's better or just as good as marijuana. They're both natural plants. And I had my grandmother, who was dying of breast cancer, use the peyote and saved her a lot of pain and time and effort in dying.
So you had a grandmother that utilized the peyote plant?
Yes. But we had to do it in secret off the reservation because it was illegal. They didn't want. It's just like I'm fighting so hard to get marijuana through for people. The only time I can use peyote or my family is on a reservation.
I see. And,
yeah.
Look, anything that can provide a level of medical an
alleviation
of suffering. Yeah.
These are natural plants. They're not pharmaceuticals.
Well, and what I like, and it sometimes, I won't say amuses me, because I don't want to be dismissive of other positions on this, and thank you, Melody, for the call. I don't want to dismiss those that have a contrary position. I have every respect for you in the world. I mean, Kevin, I respect you. I do. I hope you're still listening. But it's odd to me that you're willing to take any drug under the sun because a pharmaceutical company sold it to a doctor prescribing it with the idea that it would be effective for this, that, or the other thing, even if it's a pain reliever, even if it's an opioid. I mean, my mother was diagnosed with her brain tumor because she overdosed on Tylenol because the pain was so bad. So what we're discussing is use to excess versus generally accepted usage. I'm just fascinated with those that say, well, Big Pharma came up with Marinol. Doesn't Marinol? Marinol's one. I mean, just read the studies. It's not nearly as effective. It's far more expensive. And oh, by the way, you have the real deal that they're trying to replicate right there. But Big Pharma doesn't make a lot of money on the real deal. Andrew is next in Shelbyville. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Hey, I'm in Murfreesboro now, but yeah, I'm doing great. So I was a marijuana dealer at kingpin level for many years in Nashville. So when you talk about the black market, that does tickle my ear. You don't know what's in marijuana now. 9 years ago, I knew what was in it, but fentanyl is in it now. Because of the strength of marijuana, the dealers will do whatever they can to increase the strength. And so dusting it with synthetic opioid, that's not a problem. It doesn't matter to the dealer. I would prefer it to be regulated, first of all, for the medical purpose. My brother has epilepsy, and he lives in Florida where it's medically legal, and he gets his relief. It's either that or take handfuls of pills every day that leave him completely crippled. You're taking so many pills, it's destroying your liver, and he had no quality of life. He got his quality of life back. But I would prefer, if we're going to have any marijuana, for it to be regulated where you know what you're getting is in the store, it's been vetted, and you can be sure that what is on the package is what is in the contents and that it is safe. And that's the best. People are going to get it regardless. And to Kevin, I would say, I know that the Bible says everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. We have been set free to say yes and no. Nobody's pushing it on you, Kevin.
Well, that's right. I mean, and Kevin obviously would disagree, and his disagreement largely comes from a religious faith argument, and I have every respect in the world for that. And I would make the argument that from a faith-based perspective, if you want to encourage temperance, please do so. I'll be right there with you. I think there's a lot to be said for the encouragement of temperance. Whether it is alcohol or smoking of cigarettes or marijuana use or any other form of pills or addiction to caffeine. I mean, I fully admit that I'm addicted to caffeine. I'm addicted to Twitter, too. I don't think we should ban either of them. All right, so we'll put that to bed for now. We'll have Janice Bowling back on coming up in just a few short days or weeks as her bill moves through the process, and we'll keep you up to date with where it is and how it is going. And hopefully we'll have her in studio, and I might try to impose upon Dr. Jerry Slavarky of UAB Medicine to come on with us. He was right there up front with regard to some of the testing that went on in Alabama, and he was a doubter to begin with, by the way. And he came over to the side of believing in the efficacy of medical marijuana. We'll continue that conversation as needed. All right, so my grandfather, you guys know, taught me a lot of things. He is the finest individual that I've ever met in my life, that I've ever known in my life. My grandfather taught me that you don't have to remember a lie. Now, I have coined a phrase I like to call the Nixon Doctrine. The Nixon Doctrine goes like this. Matt Murphy, Nixon Doctrine. It's not what you do in public life that gets you in most trouble. It's what you do to cover up what you do or what you did that comes back to bite you on the tuchus. It wasn't necessarily that the Watergate break-in occurred. It was Nixon's effort to cover it up that caused his resignation. The end of the day. This is not about whether or not Andy Ogles graduated from college. Many of our finest Americans did not. The story that I'm about to relate to you has nothing to do with his degree. It does have a little bit to do with his honesty. And it's not really how he answered the initial charges thrown against him so much as what he didn't say. Maybe it is how he answered them. It wasn't ultimately the initial allegation that bothered me at all. Now, a little backstory. You guys know Andy and I got off on the wrong foot during the primary campaign. I had some questions about where certain finances were coming from or whether the money matched up to what he was claiming. He didn't want to answer those questions, so he refused to come on with me during the primary. He subsequently did not come on with me during the general election, and he won't come on my show. All right, that's all well and good. He'll come on Dan's show. I'm glad he does. He'll go on. It's my understanding, he's still available to Brian Wilson. He's available to Michael Del Giorno, and I'm glad because I'm glad he's available to Super Talk 99.7 WTN listeners. There was a report filed by Phil Williams of News Channel 5 indicating that while Andy Ogles was calling himself an economist, that he did not earn a degree in economics. Now, many supporters of Andy Ogles said, well, yeah, I mean, you can learn about economics without having a degree, and that is all well and good. I feel like I know what Andy was trying to do when he was running around claiming to be an economist or saying that he was an economist. Here's how you know that Andy knows that too. Now, I know many of you who are supporters of Andy, you don't like me talking about him at all. And I'm not trying to be unfair to the guy. And he's always welcome. Andy and I are going to agree on 95% of the stuff. He'll be a conservative in Congress. But he's also been less than truthful about his educational past. Here's how you know. Andy says, well, I didn't mean that I had a degree in economics. I meant that I had studied it over the years. That's what I was referring to when I called myself an economist. Watch. See if Andy Ogles ever refers to himself as an economist again. If Andy's being truthful to you, then he would. Because he means it in a different way than some have taken it. Now, that said, Congressman Andy Ogles graduated from Middle Tennessee State University. He posted a statement on his Facebook page yesterday regarding his time in college, the fact that during his senior year in college that he left Middle Tennessee State University to pursue a degree in political science and international relations, or he transferred to pursue a degree in political science and international relations. Then he left college, dropped out, returned home to financially support his family. Good for him. It's important that you take care of your family. Later on, he finished his degree as a non-traditional student, said that he finished his final semester at MTSU through their distance learning program. Now, before I go on with this, by the way, he closed off his transcripts to anyone trying to see them. I don't know if you do that naturally or proactively or when he would have done that, but he did not wish for individuals to be able to look at his transcripts, apparently. I want you to listen after the break to how Andy answered the question asked of him on Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis regarding his degree. And this happened a couple of weeks ago when this subject came up. Maybe it wasn't even a couple of weeks ago. Once again, this has really nothing to do with what Andy got his degree in, and I'm certain that Andy will be a very conservative congressman for the 5th Congressional District. I am also certain in my heart of hearts that Andy has been fibbing about his degree. And you guys get to decide whether or not my instincts are correct, and you get to decide whether that bothers you or not. We'll continue the discussion next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, it was so good getting together with some WTN listeners with LT360 last week. Love those get-togethers, and I love the fact that many of you are concerned about your health and want to tackle your health on a holistic level. It's Matt Murphy for LT360. I'm going to see Coach Elizabeth not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow, Wednesday, the 1st. And I encourage you to make the call that so many others have made to LT360 to find out how they can assist you. Yes, many of you, like me, you make the call because of your weight. You want to make sure that you're managing that weight and that you're at a healthy level, but it's so much more than that. Getting healthy on the cellular level can benefit you in so many ways. And yeah, the weight comes off. That's kind of a residual of getting cellularly healthy. But I'll tell you this, and I said this last week when I met with you fine folks at LT360, that I was most unhealthy when I was 285 pounds, and the second most unhealthy I ever was when I was 190 pounds. So it's not just about weight. It's about health on the cellular level. They can do that for you at LT360. Get you off to some pharmaceuticals as well. LT360.com is the website, LT360.com. I encourage you to go there and find out more about the fine folks at LT360.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If, on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now, that's the idea. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
The murder trial of Alec Murdaugh continues today, and 2 juveniles who escaped from juvie now found. That and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
When you were in journalism school, did you long for the day that you would utilize your education and use the term juvie in a tease?
The Youth Academy. My fault.
No. It's juvie. We know what that is. I love that. All right, that coming up in just a moment. Real quick. All right, just to set the stage for you. And once again, I'm not here to attack the guy. I'm here to observe, and I'm here to cover the news. And there's a new aspect to the story about whether or not Andy Ogles, congressman of the 5th District, embellished his resume. Whether this matters to you or not is up to you. It matters to me because my grandfather taught me that it should. Lying matters. Saying something, well, what is a lie? What is a lie? How would you define a lie? For me, it's pretty simple. Saying something that you know is not true at the time that you say it. A lie is not a mistake. George W. Bush said that Saddam Hussein had stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction. Was he lying? No. Every intelligence agency around the world said the same thing. Turned out that wasn't true. That was a mistake. Own your mistakes. Earlier on the Dan Mandis Nashville's Morning News, the Dan Mandis Show, Andy Ogles made an appearance, and he was repairing some of the issues involving a hit piece, and it was a hit piece by News Channel 5 and Phil Williams regarding his resume. Listen to how he answered a very direct question by Dan Mandis. Go. he doesn't. I mean, what impression would you have after listening to that? Just be honest with yourself, even if you're an Ogles supporter. Well, it turns out that he did not have a degree. He does not have a degree in international relations. And I thought that Dan asked him the direct question. And I thought Mandis used this morning, the direct question. What was your degree in? I could be wrong. Well, his degree was in liberal arts. Now, hold on. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. There's nothing wrong with having a degree in liberal arts. By the way, my degree, a theater degree, is a liberal arts degree. So trust me when I tell you, or even if I didn't have a degree, I don't care. It's not about the degree. It's about lying about the degree. Or saying something that you know is misrepresenting the truth. And don't tell me that he didn't know what his degree was in, because I do not believe that. And I know that's supposition on my part. I do not believe that you can misremember what degree you have. And I don't care if it was non-traditional. More coming up. It's 2:33 on Super Talk.
$2:33. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. 75 degrees. The sun has come out. The clouds away. The wind is here to stay. Wind advisory until 6 p.m. in the mid-state. Weather coming up in just a few minutes. The trial of Alec Murdaugh continues in South Carolina. Derek Dennis gives us an update.
Defense attorneys wrapping up their risky move, putting Alec Murdaugh on the stand in his own defense, where he repeatedly denied having anything to do with the murders of his wife and son, Paul.
I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime, ever.
But also repeatedly admitting to lying about his whereabouts and financial crimes before and after the murders.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
The judge and jury hearing all of it. The judge also approving a defense request to give jurors the opportunity to visit the rural family property where the murders were carried out. Prosecutors are expected to present their rebuttal witnesses Tuesday.
Here in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that 2 juveniles escaped the Walnut Youth Academy on Stewart's Ferry Pike on January 31st. They stole the keys that unlocked the doors. They were then able to get outside and climb over a wall to escape. 14-year-old Brett Webb was found and taken into custody on February 1st. Just today, the other escapee, 17-year-old Cesar Chavez Perdomo, surrendered himself and is now in custody. Chavez Perdomo was arrested in May of last year on an aggravated robbery charge. Webb has several out-of-county charges. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Man, I'm looking at myself on Super Talk TV. I need a haircut. No? That's coming from Bell K. Bell K says no. I mean, I don't know where that standard is, but I don't think I can use you as a template. You're not the median there. Oh, by the way, it's the Matt Murphy Show, 239, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I seriously doubt that I will get to Joe Biden's interview from David Muir and ABC this past Friday. I wanted to play a game of stop and go where we play the interview and we stop and then we go and I make comments interspersed within the interview. I'm not going to be able to get to that. I've got too much to do. So here's the deal. A lot of you reacting via the super text line to the latest revelations regarding Andy Ogles. So it's as simple as this. Andy shut down access to his transcripts. An investigation, call it a hit piece, sure. It sounded and looked like a hit piece on the heels of Representative George Santos. I'm just trying to give some of you the backstory here. Phil Williams looks into Ogles' background regarding his repeated use of the term economist. He was an economist. He also said that he was a law enforcement. He was in law enforcement, that he was a law enforcement officer. I think a volunteer reserve deputy and a law enforcement officer, those are two slightly different things, but okay. And it turns out he lost his volunteer reserve deputy certification, I guess, because he did not show up for training. But that's neither here nor there. Andy and I are not very simpatico regarding his appearance on the show, although the door is always open for him. And so I wasn't able to have him on, but Dan had him on, Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News, and I have all the respect in the world for Dan. And I don't say that just because he's my boss. He does a great job on Nashville's Morning News, and I don't know of a more fair-minded interviewer than Dan Mandis. I admit that sometimes my subjectivity gets in the way of objectively interviewing a subject. You get what I did there? But Dan is a straight arrow. And he asked him about his degree. And Andy doubled down on this international studies and political science stuff. And now it turns out that he wasn't very forthcoming with regard to what his degree was at Middle Tennessee State University. The transcript, which was uncovered by News Channel 5, which was submitted by Andy Ogles with a job application more than a decade ago, shows that his major was not in economics or international relations. It was in liberal studies or liberal arts, which is a more generalized educational or generalized degree. My degree was a theater degree, but it was a liberal arts degree as well. I mean, I guess those things, theater is a more specific discipline within the liberal arts education. I am not knocking Andy Ogles for what he got his degree in, and I appreciate what he has said as much as I believe it. And I'm not trying to say that to be nasty. I'm saying that because Andy has had a struggle getting to the truth on this subject. My grandfather taught me that you don't have to remember the truth. That you have to have a really good memory if you're going to lie about things. What Andy has said is that he did not remember what his degree was in. After completing the online courses, he said, I was awarded a Bachelor of Science, and MTSU mailed me my degree a few months later. At the time, it was my understanding I had completed my course of study in political science and international relations. I don't believe that. I don't believe that someone gets a major in something and they thought they were getting a major in something else. You can call that my bias against Andy if you want. Why does all of this matter? Well, let me finish. He said, last week I requested an official copy of my transcript and learned that I was actually awarded, well, you earned it, Andy. You weren't awarded anything. You earned it. I guess you can earn an award too, so I won't quibble on that. I was awarded a broader degree in liberal studies with minors in political science and English. I look forward to continually showing our 3 children the importance of finishing what you start, never giving up, and overcoming past adversity. Does the truth matter here? I think it does. Is this a hill that is worth dying on with regard to Andy? No, I just present it for your information. I don't know why Andy has chosen to be less than forthcoming with this information. But I don't believe for a minute. Re-rack the Dan question and answer. I'll just say this. Continue to support Andy if you're an Andy supporter. If this doesn't grind your gears. But the truth should matter to you too. And I don't say this because it advances any particular agenda or cause that I have. I say it because I believe it. I don't think Andy was confused. I don't think he misremembered anything. I think Andy knows what his degree was in, and he just didn't want to say because it had the word liberal in it. And he thought that people would confuse that with something that it's not. A liberal arts degree does not mean you're a liberal. A liberal studies degree. I believe this. I think Andy did not want to say that because he thought that people would use it against him or would get confused. Now, that's sad if true, but I believe that. I think that's why Andy did all of this. And it's so unnecessary. Here's the question and answer one more time. That last, I've been quite clear that I studied international political science and international relations. There it is. I've said enough about it. This is not between Andy and I, although, Andy's welcome to come on the show at any time. Several of you on the Super Text line have wondered whether it is personal. For example, I don't personally like Andy. I've said before, I think he's a bleep hole. Truth be told, you got butthurt because he said he wouldn't come on your show anymore. He's never actually said that. He just won't schedule it. If he was still coming on, you wouldn't be as critical. Be honest. Remember, you hate a liar. What I said to this person personally, I'll say publicly. I would certainly give Andy Ogles the grace to answer the questions, but Dan Mandis has done that as well. This, at this stage, has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with Andy and the constituents of the 5th Congressional District. Now, if he performs over the next 2 years, as I believe that he will, in a conservative fashion, he will be a formidable opponent. He will be primaried, I would expect, and I would expect that he would be primaried as a result of some of this. I don't understand why it takes so much to get to the truth, though. I just don't. And many of you feel the same way. Like Old Fart writes in, a theater degree? Just who could you play in the theater? Quasimodo, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Mr. Ed? Go right for the ugly jokes. I like that. I've never played any of those folks, but I did play Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. I was a much younger man back then. And I sang Edelweiss, unlike Christopher Plummer, who was lip-syncing. somebody else saying that for him. So, 9058, you're the only person I really enjoy listening to. I feel the same way about myself. He's a dodgy dude, writes 2623. 5985, sorry, we're watching on the YouTube. Somebody, Wendy, I think you just like saying poli-sci. Me too. 8787, they change majors all the time, sometimes get moved from one degree to the other because the advisor. Look, if Andy's premise is that people forget what major they're majoring in college all the time, and after they get their degree, they forget it, okay. I mean, if that's the hill that you're climbing on, if that's what you want people to believe, that's cool. That's cool with me. And some will. Some will. I mean, we all have told fibs in our time. I would like to believe that I've kind of cut that out of my life. But I'm not here to tell you if I got the question, do these pants make me look fat? I mean, no, of course not. Nothing could. I mean, right? I mean, right? I mean, you're
a lying dog-faced pony show.
Well, Mr. President, you would know one. Takes one to know one, sir, as they say. And then 1884 says, all I want to hear about is the traffic report. It seems 40 around Mount Juliet is shut down in both directions. I can help you with that, caller 1884. Let me just run over here. I know we officially don't get into the, oh, yes, you are correct, sir. I'm looking on the SmartWays map here, and it does appear that there is an accident westbound in Wilson County. It's a traffic incident at mile marker 225, just before the 171. That's my exit, as a matter of fact. Reported at 2:30 today. The westbound is closed. Westbound closed? Oh, yeah. Westbound is closed, but then there's another incident coming eastbound that is also, put it this way, you do not want to be on I-40 right now east of Nashville. Between Nashville and Lebanon is not a place to be right now, right around Mount Juliet, because it is black. And anytime you see black on the screen, that is a bad thing. It's 2:51, wrapping things up in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.